Hi everybody, a very short video lesson today on what congruent means. First of all, that I spelled it wrong in my notes. Excuse me. The word there for congruent should look like this. And the symbol for congruent, as we can see multiple times on this page, is an equal sign with a little tilde symbol, a squiggle on top, which means, from our last notes last week, they have the same measurement. Now there's a bunch of different ways they can look. If they have the same measure number, I don't have any examples in my notes right now, but later today, if they had the same variable, they'd have to be congruent. So all these are just simple yes or no questions. Are these things congruent to each other? All of them here in this first example use KJ. Its number is 139. So if the other numbers have 139, the answer is yes. So the first one, KN, does that have the same number? No, they're different numbers. Second one here, really easy, NJ, trace from N to J. Yes, those have the same numbers. Third one, trace from R to S. Between R and S, I see the number 139. Yes. And then lastly, from R to Q. From R to Q, it looks about the same to me, but the number that's there is 150, so the answer is no. Besides having the same measure number, they could also have the same length on a number line. So, check this out here. If you notice, we have a few different things measured here. So I'm going to start first with QR. How big is QR? Some of you might say answers like 2 or 3, and the answer of 2 is not a bad answer, but they're not 2 apart. If you notice, the space between them goes from -10 to 0 and 0 to 10. The spaces between are 10 spaces. There's 2 spaces of 10. 2 times 10 is 20. Or the method I want you to use, if you're not sure, is subtraction. And so you get some number line practice here. That said, a lot of these can be done a lot easier. Is QR the same distance of RS? And we can tell, no, it's not. One of them is 20, the second one is 10, but you could do this visually and didn't even really need to calculate the number line distance. I just want to reinforce some stuff that you might need to know. Is QR the same as ST? The answer is yes. They're both 2 spaces on a 10-space number line. They're both 20 units long. And if you did 40 minus 20, you would get 20. So calculation-wise, they're the same number, and distance-wise, they're the same number. The next one has QS. Give me a second to get some purple, since we have a red distance and a blue distance put together. I'm going to make that a purple distance for QS. And QS is clearly 3 spaces long, or if you subtract their numbers, 20 minus -10 is 30. And then red and green put together don't make anything great, so I'll just use black here. R to T. R to T goes from 40 to 10. 40 minus +10 is 30. So the answer is yes. They are congruent. If you looked at QS and ST, they're clearly not the same. One of them is 3 spaces apart, one of them is 2 spaces apart, so one of them is 30, one of them is 20, and this one would be no. Last thing where they could be congruent is if they have the same tick marks. So here we can see some of them that have 1 tick mark and some of them that have 2 tick marks. I hope you can tell the difference. I know this picture is a little bit small. It'll be a lot easier in IXL. But for the first 3, we're talking about RS, which had 1 tick mark going through it. And is that congruent to QT? If you look at QT over here, it has 1 tick mark. Yes. Next one, RQ. If you look at RQ, I know it's hard to tell, but there is 2 marks on it. So no, they don't have the same. Is RS congruent to UY? UY is down here in the bottom. It just has 1 little mark. Yes. And then lastly is RQ, which was in green. Is the RQ one the same as VW? And it's hard to tell here. Sorry, my picture is so small. But it does have 2 marks on both. So this one's also yes. If they both have 1 mark, it's yes. If they both have 2 marks, it's yes. If they have different marks, the answer is no. You guys will be going to IXL, I believe it's B.7, to a full score of 100. And just a reminder, I don't usually go to a score of 100, but some of these easy lessons we do go all the way to 100. It should be very easy overall. A lot of just yes and no questions, just like these. Hope you guys have a successful lesson, and we'll go from there. Take care.